As I was listening to that introduction, I was turning around and was wondering what she was talking about. I didn't know I did all that stuff until she reminded me. But, that was the second best introduction that I've ever had in my entire life. As a matter of fact, the best introduction I have is last week when I was speaking at the Rotary Club, and I got to introduce myself. But before I get started, I want to say hello to some of my friends that I didn't even know were going to be here. I got Leslie Doobie. Okay, thank you so much for being here. Leslie and I have known each other for a number of years. Okay, and also Hayden Dempsey. And Hayden was the person who introduced me to your association many, many years ago. We did some great things together. And I just want you all to know in this room that even though I know them well, I also know many of the other lobbyists extremely well. And you guys had the top lobbyists representing your organization. They're going to do really good for you, and they know they always have an open door to come to you and talk to you about anything. I want to talk to you a little bit about what's important for your industry. And what I'm going to do is I want to tell you a quote from a very famous gentleman. His name was Mark Twain. And Mark Twain once said that no man's life, liberty, or property is safe when the legislature is in session. And I'm going to repeat that because it's so important. No man's life, liberty, or property is safe when the legislature is in session. You know, as a legislator, with this pen, with my computer, my staff, and my office, I can either hurt your industry or I can help your industry. I can hurt you badly. I can regulate you to a point where it's going to cost you $50,000 a year for each one of your facilities to run, or I can make sure that I can help you so that you can regulate your own industry and take care of yourselves and keep yourselves out of trouble. Let me give you an example of what happens. Okay? A few years ago, there was a situation about PIP insurance, and PIP is personal injury protection. And I was in the legislature at that time. And there was one legislator, and that's what I meant, one person. There was a legislator who had some unhappy things that they didn't like about personal injury property protection. And before that session was over, they had removed everyone who had anything to do with that as far as making any kind of money at the end and treating patients who were in car accidents. And then there were organizations, for instance, the acupuncturists at that time were organizations had no lobbyists, had no grassroots efforts, had no idea what was going on. And before the session was over, they were completely removed from allowing to treat those patients, and they lost all of their income from that particular part. Last session, again, because of the efforts of two legislators and the governor, there was another reform with property insurance that we had, with personal injury protection, which is auto insurance. Okay? And at the end of that session, guess what? Thousands upon thousands of chiropractors saw their industry almost get decimated. They've lost 75% of their income. They used to be allowed to be able to charge $10,000 and treat people for $10,000 worth of medical treatments that was reduced down to $2,500. And about 30,000 massage therapists in the state of Florida who made a majority of their income working with people who were injured in car industry, in car accidents, completely lost their ability to treat any car accident victims at all. Lost all their income. And the reason I mention that to you is that also can happen to you. It can happen to you that if one legislator or a group of legislators, for some reason, has a problem with your industry. And this is how basic I have. Let me give you an example. I'm with my friends, and we're sitting up in the legislature, we're sitting up in the dining room, we're all talking about different issues that could possibly come around, and somebody says, oh, by the way, a friend of mine, a constituent's wife, husband, sister, brother, son, whatever, that lived in one of these facilities was hurt. It wasn't taken care of properly. And I'm going to file a bill to make sure that that doesn't happen again. And of course now, if no one had come to me, and if no one had come to any of the other representatives that are in that room, guess what we're going to do? We're going to support that legislator. We're going to support that representative because they're friends of ours. We've grown up together up in Tallahassee. We've been there when we were freshmen and sophomores and juniors, and now we're going to be seniors. And we're going to help each other out. But there is something that you can do. And what you can do, well, let me ask you a question first. Raise your hand in this room, whoever knows the names of their state representative their state senator, where their offices are, if you have their phone numbers in your contacts in their phone, do you know the name of their staff, their secretary and their aides, okay? And have you met with them? Let me see your hands. That's a lot better than I've seen in a lot of other organizations. You don't count. That's a lot better. Okay, because that is exactly what I'm here to tell you and what makes it important. Every session, we have to potentially look at between 2,000 and 3,000 different bills. Different bills. I have absolutely no idea about some of the issues that come before me. None. And if it wasn't for people like Hayden, it wasn't for people like Leslie, and if it wasn't for Rosa, and if it wasn't for Donna, who are my personal people in my district who come to me and said, Peter, we have this situation, what are we going to do? I wouldn't know that much about your organization. I wouldn't know anything about chiropractors. I wouldn't know anything about the Florida Medical. That's what has to happen. And let me tell you how to do that, at least in my opinion, and then you can work from there. What you need to do, in my opinion, after you leave this meeting this week, wherever you're going to go, when you go back home, okay, especially before elections, you need to find out again the name of your representative, the name of your senator. And in my opinion, you need to make appointments with them at their office. And if you can't get appointments with them directly, you need to make an appointment with their staff. Because guess what? We are so busy a lot of the time that we don't have enough time to see all of you. But our staff will, and then they report back to us. And then if we still feel we need that, then we will call upon you to come back to the office and explain it to you. And the reason that you need to go see these people is because they need to be, we need to be educated on your issue. And the reason that we need to be educated on your issue is exactly the reason that I was talking to you about a second ago. If I hear something about your industry, and I don't know anything about it because you haven't come to my office and you have not told me about your issue, then how do I do it? Well, who am I going to listen to? I'm going to listen to the people who are there to tell me about the industry, to tell me maybe what a bad thing that happened to their friends, to their relatives, to their constituent. And who am I going to believe if I don't know? So what's important is that you have to go. Not only do you have to go see them, but you have to talk to them. You have to get them to know what the issues are important to you, because you know why? Because I don't remember that scenario I just gave you. I'm in that room, and somebody just says something bad about your industry. Guess what? First thing, whoa, time out. Hey, John Smith, what are you talking about? That's not true. I happen to know a little bit about this industry, and I know the good things that the people who work in this industry do, and about the tremendous effects that they have on the people who live in their facilities, and how great they treat them. And all of a sudden, you're telling me that you want me to help you with a bill to overregulate, and maybe there was a knee-jerk reaction, maybe there was one incident. Why would you do that? And then that all of a sudden gets the conversation going, because then I can convince my other friends that this is not the right thing to do. Your most important asset in Tallahassee is your local representative. Most important. Your local representative, someone who will be willing to stand up for you, defend the issues that are important to you. And how you do that again, and I'm going to repeat it over and over again until you get it, is basically you need to see your representative. If you call your representative during session, guess what? It's not going to matter. This is the time now to build your relationship with your representative when we don't have everything else going on. If I'm looking at 400 or 500 different issues and you try to call my office in the middle of session in Tallahassee because there's a problem coming up, I don't know if I'm going to have the time to deal with that. Now is the time. And the reason I'm telling you now is because if you make an impression upon me now, and you tell me about your industry now, and you tell me all the positive things that you do for your patient now, and when something comes up later on, okay, I already have a relationship with you. You're not trying to build one when there's a problem. You're building one before the problem even arises, and potentially, hopefully, that the problem will never get there. But if you do it too late, it's not going to happen. You have to do it early, and you have to do it now. You guys understand what I'm saying? It's like preventive medicine. It's like taking supplements and doing exercise before you get sick, because even if you get sick, at least you won't get as sick. Okay? So if